Bienvenidos, aloha, welcome to Sunset Rewind. Alex Crawford, Howard Kroom with you here once again. Final episode for the 2021 fall season. And a little sad that it's over, but a lot to get excited about heading into the new year. Follow us on social media if you don't already, at sunset_rewind. Visit our website, sunsetrewind.com. And before we get into this, just want to thank everybody for riding along with us this season, from the preseason 7-on-7, the preseason non-Sunset League play, the Sunset League play, the postseason. We appreciate everyone tapping in with us. Howard, we got a CIF title from one of the teams. We got 4 playoff teams from the Sunset League. It was a good year for the league. A lot of hype around our Sunset League teams.
It was a great year. It was a very strong showing. A lot of teams represented well. We got 4 teams into the playoffs, and we felt like we were going to get at least one CIF title. And I know that's a lot to ask for, and especially to use the words "at least." But hey, we thought we might get 2 CIF titles. We left with 1 as a league. We'll take that. We always say we're the strongest public school league in California, and I think we showed that this year.
Final regular season standings: Los Al, Edison, CDM, Newport, Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley. That's the order we'll go in. Just want to say a few words about each team. And let's start with the Los Alamitos Griffins. They finished 9-2 on the season, a perfect 5-0 in league. Howard, what did you love about Los Al this year?
Well, it's easy to point to the thing that stands out to the offense. We know about Malachi Nelson at quarterback, Makai Lemon at receiver, DeAndre Moore, Ethan O'Connor, Alec Wills. I mean, they've got other receivers that don't get reps because of those guys are in front of them who are excellent as well. Nigel Osborne at running back. He's a college-bound guy. Gavin Porch at running back as well. Strong offensive line with guys going to college all over it. So this offense is one that you have to shout out. And with Malachi at the helm, he's a smart guy. He's an athletic guy, has a huge arm, throws the ball downfield to those receivers. So you see, one play drives of 60 yards, stuff like that. Malachi can also use his legs. So just an absolute threat at the quarterback position, and he gets everything going. And this was an offense that was efficient, put up a lot of points, put up 60 points in one game, 50, a couple of 40s. We saw him put up 38 points against St. John Bosco, which is a nationally ranked team. So this offense was the real deal. They showed you how talented they were, and it wasn't just hype. I mean, they were really excellent.
Talking to the Los Al coaches, we know the defense is an area that they hope to improve in. And talking to defensive coordinator Coach Koble, he said that they've got, as we know, some real studs coming back defensively for the Los Al Griffins.
Well, I think the obvious one is Isaiah Dorsey. He doesn't look like, your prototypical guy, right? He's 5 foot, I don't know. Let's just say 5'8". I'm not sure. Maybe he's 5'9" or 5'10" by now. And let's say he's 160 pounds, but in my opinion, he's the best defensive player in the Sunset. He has, several picks, PBUs, tackles for losses,
go out to Fresno and play Buchanan. We saw them play Lincoln of San Diego. These were teams that were ranked in the top 25 in the state of California, and Los Al took on these challenges in the preseason. It got them ready for what they're going to face, let's say in 2022, when they hope to go on a deeper run in the CIF playoffs.
Moving on to the team that finished second in the Sunset League, the Edison Chargers. They end the year 8-4. They went 4-1 in league. They lost to Inglewood in the CIF D2 quarterfinals. And Howard, really fun team to watch this season. In fact, a little bit disappointing that they lost in the quarterfinals. We thought the Chargers were a team that could really go all the way and maybe win that D2 title.
Yeah, well, it was a little surprising that they lost because we know how good they are, but maybe we shouldn't have been surprised because Inglewood, they're an excellent team as well. We know their quarterback's going to UCLA. They've got a bunch of other guys that are going to big-time colleges. So when you've got that kind of talent on the field, the game can go either way. So still an excellent season for Edison. They accomplished a lot. And, if we're singling guys out or we're looking back on the season, I have to shine a spotlight on my guy, Troy Fletcher. He had such an amazing year. We've been, waxing poetic about how good of a season he had, but we have to. From the running back position, 150 carries, almost 1,200 yards, 8 yards per carry. That's ridiculous. Averaged 100 yards a game, 20 touchdowns on the season, tied the school record for 5 touchdowns in a game. That's just on offense. And what's crazy about that is, I really first saw Troy Fletcher play in club football for the Argonauts. He was a cornerback. I loved his technique. I loved how fundamentally sound he was, how tenacious, he would always rally to the football. I had no idea this dude played offense. Didn't have a clue that he could run the ball, and he comes out, and we love Edison's receivers. We know that we're thinking this is a passing team, and Troy Fletcher puts the team on his back most nights offensively. So just an amazing season offensively. Then on defense, we know he had a 65-yard pick six in the playoffs, interceptions, fumble recoveries, tackles, just an all-around football player that you have to take note of. He's an excellent team guy and does everything his coaches ask. So when I look back on the 2021 Edison season, I got to give a huge shout out to Troy Fletcher.
Yeah, and deservedly so. When I look back on the 2021 season, I want to talk about the two quarterbacks, Parker Awad, the junior transfer from Mater Dei, who looked really sharp, and someone to watch, someone to keep an eye on to be one of the best players in the Sunset League in the 2022 season. And then Tyler Joya, who tore his ACL back in April, had surgery, came back, got the start in the rivalry game, the Bell game against Fountain Valley, then unexpectedly got the start in the opening round playoff game for Edison, led them to the victory, threw for 5 touchdowns. Such a cool storyline. Tyler Joy, he was a team captain regardless of whether he was going to be the starter or not. Team guy through and through, worked hard in the offseason. Everyone on that team, from the parents to the players to the coaches to the community, everyone respected and loved Tyler Joya. So that was really cool to see him get a playoff win in the opening round for the Edison Chargers. And while we're on the topic of quarterbacks, let's talk about the two senior receivers, Nico Brown and Tyler Hampton.
Well, starting with Tyler Hampton, we knew what he was going to bring to the table because he had a productive year as a junior, had a productive year out in club football. He's a 3-sport athlete, so we know he's got talent. He's got the raw talent, but man, he brought it this year, and he had limited reps. He missed 3 games due to injury early on. Still had over 40 catches, 600 yards receiving, 14 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns on the season. Those are huge numbers. Those are big-time numbers when you got to remember he didn't lead his team in receptions, and the ball got spread around to 4 and 5 different receivers. So for Hampton to be at 600 yards and 7 touchdowns, he had a big year. He was so reliable, and he also had one of maybe the best highlight play in Sunset League this year with the crazy catch in the end zone at Cap Shoot Field, just a one-hander, Odell Beckham Jr. style. It was a true highlight. So really fun to watch Tyler. And then Nico, going to the leading receiver on the team. Nico Brown, 47 catches, 765 yards, 16 yards per catch, 9 touchdowns on the year. And again, I just got done talking about Troy Fletcher. So if Troy has all those touchdowns, and these guys, the ball can't go to everybody at all times, but Edison had so many weapons that all of these guys racked up numbers, and they were a good team. Sometimes they were blowing other teams out, so the offense really got to shine. And these guys, Hampton, Brown, They led the way. Their teams always relied on them. And, I mean, these are prototypical high school receivers killing the opposition.
Yeah, well, for Edison, they lose those seniors we just talked about, Joya, Troy Fletcher, Nico Brown, Tyler Hampton, and a whole bunch more, Peyton Gregory, but Austin Gribbick. They lose a lot of seniors, but it's such a strong culture there. It's such a good program that Coach Grady runs. I mean, I have no doubt that it's not going to be a rebuild. It's going to be a retool. We'll talk about that later, but I still have high expectations for Edison Chargers in 2022.
I mean, as you should. Think about it. We didn't shout out the offensive line, but coming into this year, we had no idea what the O-line was going to be. We were a little bit nervous that maybe the offense wouldn't be able to click because they were bringing in so many new starters, but those guys had an excellent year, allowed the offense to operate the way that they wanted to. And then, I mean, we didn't talk on this show right now about the Edison defense, but the front seven smothered everything in the run game. A lot of the receivers played DB, athletic, shutting stuff down in the pass game. I mean, this was just a full team, and you just brought up the culture that's laid. Coach Grady is one of the best coaches around. His players respect him. The culture perpetuates itself because it is so strong. He's an Edison guy himself. So, yeah, this is a team that's not going anywhere. And if anything, I mean, they're going to be back just as strong next year. They're going to have to obviously replace Troy Fletcher, replace those two receivers, but I have no doubt they're going to be able to, especially with the juniors that we already saw on the offense in 2021. They're going to come back and step into those roles just fine.
Moving down to the Corona Del Mar Sea Kings, they finished 9-3 on the season, 3-2 in Sunset League. They lost in the CF quarterfinals to Orange Lutheran. You look at this team. This is a team, Howard, the Sea Kings. They didn't lose a preseason game or a non-league game. They lost 2 games in the Sunset League to Edison and Los Al. Then they lost to a Trinity League team. So really impressive season from them. We had heard about Coach O'Shea. We had heard about the culture and the program that they have at CDM, the coaching staff, the way they do things. We got to see it up close this season, and it was impressive.
Yeah, Corona Del Mar deserves a lot of credit. This is an elite public school. This is an elite coaching staff and an elite program because, as you mentioned, they only lost to Los Al. That's a generational team right now. Edison, who's an amazing team, went to the quarterfinals. We just talked about how much talent that Edison has, and to a Trinity League team. And Trinity League, we already know about that. All of those kids are going to college, right? And this is from little old Corona Del Mar down in Newport Beach. And it takes those powerhouses to beat them. I mean, you got to give so much credit to Coach O'Shea and to these kids for buying into the culture, buying into what the coaches are selling, and believing in themselves and executing. This is a team that made it into the Division II playoffs. That is so impressive. That's so impressive because the teams in Division II, those are teams, like I said, with a ton of Division I kids. These are traditional powerhouse programs, Trinity League programs in Division II. So for CDM to make it to that bunch, it tells you what they accomplished this season. As a unit, as a group, they're so strong. They do have a lot of talent. They have a lot of individual talent. But I think as a collective, their talent outweighs anything that they have as individuals.
The Sea Kings are losing a couple key seniors, Charlie Mannon, who plays both offense and defense, and then at the receiver position, Max Lane and John Tipton. But they return a lot of youth, namely a guy who we really enjoyed watching grow, mature, and put up big numbers this season, junior, soon-to-be senior quarterback David Razor, running back Evan Sanders, wide receiver Cooper Hoke, bunch of guys on defense. So it's not going to be a huge drop-off. I don't expect a huge drop-off for the Sea Kings in 2022. Moving down to the Newport Harbor Sailors team that finished 4th in the Sunset League, got in CIF Southern Section Division 6 playoffs with an at-large berth, and they ended up being the Sunset League team that brought home a ring. At the beginning, Howard, you said we expected at least one ring. Well, we didn't expect the Newport Harbor Sailors to be the team that brought it home, but they beat Temecula Valley for the D6 championship and won a title in Coach Lofthouse's 4th season there. We talked to Coach Lofthouse earlier this week, and he said that the season for the Sailors was summed up in that championship game.
And to have the kids still keep faith in the process, trust us as coaches, trust their teammates, not blame, complain, or defend their actions, just work continually and tirelessly in the weight room, in the film room, and on the field at practice, and continue to practice and get better and better and better. and then save their best performance the night of Temecula Valley and come back from 21-0 and overcome it. To me, overcoming the 21 points was the epitome of all the adversity we'd basically gotten to that season. You couldn't face a more tough environment to overcome than that down 21 in a title game, and then to pull through and actually get the W.
Well, when you end the year with the championship, with a ring on your finger, holding up the trophy at the end of the season, it's easy to sum your season up with that championship. Obviously, though, there was a long process that it took to get there. And when the Sailors ended the season at 3-7, we thought there was almost no chance they were going to get into the playoffs. They find a way. The committee recognizes the rigorous schedule that Coach Lofthouse and the Sailors played. They find a way to get into the playoffs, and everything clicked when they did. There was a time in the year where we thought that this team was going to be amazing. Then we thought, oh my goodness, who is this team? We were fooled, we were wrong. Then by the end of the year, we started to see, okay, this is a team that can put up 30 points a night. This is a team that can overcome adversity, weather the storm, win playoff games on the road. So this was really the definition of a roller coaster season. But for the Sailors, it ended at the top of the mountain where they wanted it to be with the CIF ring. And, that was led by a lot of young guys, receivers, Cashin Hingham, Josiah Lamarque, but also a senior quarterback in A.J. Goutron-Moore that became a star in front of our eyes.
Senior A.J. Goutron-Moore thrust into action unexpectedly due to injuries. He got the start in the Fountain Valley game and then started all the rest of the games throughout the season, into the postseason, into state for the Sailors, and started the year as a third stringer, ended up bringing home the team a ring. So a cool story there, an awesome story, one of those great high school football stories, and something, of course, that A.J. Goutron-Moore will never forget. And Howard, you called it a life-changing, a program-changing win for Coach Lofthouse and his staff, especially considering they ended the regular season 3-7. It was about to be an awful offseason, a long offseason for the Sailors. And now things are radically different there at Newport Harbor High School.
Well, I said it earlier, right after they won their ring. Most of us who play sports don't get to experience, especially at the CIF championship level, maybe a tournament, maybe a youth championship, but most of us don't get to win a CIF championship. Just look at the banner that hangs up at Newport Harbor for their 90 years of football history. Before the 2021 team, there was only 3 championships in history. That's how hard these things are to win. So heck yeah, this will change your program and change your life if you're a coach and if you're a player. It changes the way you look at yourself, the way everybody looks at you. And, man, those guys, they stamped their spot in history, and the 2021 team held it down for Sunset League, held it down for their school, for their own legacies. It's a huge thing to be proud of.
Moving down to the team that finished 5th in the Sunset League, the Huntington Beach Oilers. They ended the year 4-6, 1-4 in league. No postseason berth for Huntington Beach. Looking at their season, big senior class, biggest senior class that head coach Brett Brown has had, and a lot of guys that the Oilers are going to miss. Coach Brown said as much when we talked to him earlier this week.
We have our banquet next week, and it's going to be tough to say bye to all these seniors. It was the biggest class, graduating class that I've had since I've been here for the 6 years. So, real tight group. Great kids. On and off the field. So it's going to be a tough one. To say goodbye to these guys, but we had a lot of fun, and it's just a joy to come to practice every day and to coach these young men.
Howard, for those seniors that are cornerstones, that have been pillars of this Huntington Beach program, Tyler Moses, AJ Perez, Hideo Ray, and EJ Riedrich. Coach Brown's really going to miss those guys. The Oilers program is going to miss those guys. The younger guys are going to miss the leadership of those players. Those are 4 guys that it's going to be tough to see not in the orange and black for Huntington Beach next season.
Absolutely. You're going to miss that production. Also, you're looking at the left tackle, Trent Light, pass rush guy, defensive end, Jeff Hagedorn. You got slot receiver, Brandon Kasia. A lot of guys, that Coach Brown's going to miss. And that's why this year was a season that the Oilers went into with high hopes, because they knew that they had this big senior class, a lot of talent, AJ Perez, excellent quarterback. So when you got a guy like that at the helm, you feel like this is going to be our year. And we saw some good performances out of the Oilers. We saw through 3 quarters in a couple of games, they shut teams out, holding teams to 1 score or less, putting up 40-plus points in a game. We saw that on multiple occasions. So this was a team that had a high ceiling, but there were just times where they couldn't put it all together, and we know they played a tough schedule. So because of that, while we saw bright spots, this team left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, the Oilers have something to prove for sure in 2022 because, like you were saying, this is a team that we thought could sneak in and get an at-large berth in the postseason like Newport Harbor did if they had finished 5-5 or 6-4, maybe handled business in those 2 preseason or non-league games that they lost. They would have got an at-large berth. So they've got their sights set on that and on trying to make the leap, much like Newport Harbor is still trying to make the leap into the top 3 in Sunset League. That's what Coach Brown expects out of his team in 2022. They got something to prove. Coach Brown said they're right back to work in the weight room. So I'm excited to see how the Oilers improve in the 2022 season. Wrapping things up for the 2021 Fall Sunset League season, the Fountain Valley Barons, they finish 1-9 on the year, 0-5 in Sunset League. And Howard, you said this to Coach Gutierrez, and we talked to him earlier this week about as short of a runway as you could have as a head coach. He took over the program in early August. And when we were talking to him earlier this week, he said he's excited to see what him and his coaching staff can install and what they can try to build with a full offseason with these Fountain Valley kids.
For what we got out of the season, it was kind of the most we could have pulled out of them, and also make it a good experience for them. Our banquet went really well. The kids were, just excited for the future, even the kids that were leaving, the seniors. So I think for us, it's something to look forward to and to build off of, within that. If I started August 1st and seeing where we're at now, I'm excited about what we can build from now until August 1st of next year.
Coach Gutierrez is a guy that gets me excited and gets me believing in the process. He always has the right outlook, the right perspective, and you believe what he says. He understands that this is not going to be built overnight. You talked about the short runway. He only had a couple of weeks to get his culture, to get his plays, to get his system installed. But right now, he believes that his team is encouraged. These guys are killing it in the weight room. His numbers are up. He's feeling good about the energy around the program, the energy on campus. And this is just step 1 in the process. This was year 1. This was kind of step 0. Like you said, thrust into the coaching position in August. Now he'll really get a chance to get to know his guys, help mold them into the Fountain Valley Barons program that he foresees being strong for years to come. He plans on being at Fountain Valley for a long time, and so he wants to build this thing the right way. So it's going to take a couple of years, but luckily he has this junior class they're now going to be seniors that he's loved all season. A lot of talented guys in that junior class that he's going to lean on, and I think it's going to be exciting to see the steps that they take in 2022. Probably not going to step up to a league championship and, go on a huge run, obviously. So we have to be realistic, but the strides are being made. I think we'll see improvement in the win column. Not sure what that means, but it will be fun to watch in 2022, and Coach Gutierrez has them going the right way.
It's a multi-year process for Coach Gutierrez. And like you said, Howard, every time we talk to him, we get fired up. He believes in what he's building there at Fountain Valley. His players believe in him. He's got his core group, like you said. Those juniors, Ben Pham, Abdel Habiba, Kane Elroy, Owen Tomko, those are just a few of the juniors that have bought into this program. And it's an uphill battle for Coach Gutierrez, but I am looking forward to seeing what they can build in the offseason. Howard, that does it for the 2021 fall season of the Sunset League, our first season of Sunset Rewind. And I just really sincerely want to thank everybody for tuning in, not just to this episode, but for every episode starting in the summer, previews, predictions that we were wrong on, predictions we were right on. We had a lot of fun. It was really great to get to know the coaches, the players, the parents, the fan bases, the communities around all these schools. So just a big thank you to everybody who tuned in this season.
Yeah, we're so appreciative, and we can't wait for the offseason and for next year. This was only year 1 for us. We're figuring stuff out. We're learning. We're going to come back better than ever. We're going to come back stronger. We're going to have some fun guests. We're going to do some in-studio stuff and get a little bit more interactive. So this was just the start. We just talked about Coach Gutierrez having a short runway. We did too. We we didn't get a full offseason as Sunset Rewind. So it'll be fun coming into the 2022 year where we get an opportunity to bring more content, some more interesting in-depth pieces on every team. So it'll be fun to dig in as we continue to grow.
For the last time in 2021, for all the players, parents, and coaches in the Sunset League, for my broadcast partner, Howard Kroom, this is Alex Crawford saying, from Saddleback to the Pacific Ocean, from the 405 to PCH, you've been watching Sunset Rewind. Thanks for tuning in.